New BT15 support for Machinedramon is really good. And what's really good? Supreme Connection is really, really good. Let's show you guys what we got for the build. Wave 2 is here. We got 2 new products. You guys love the first series Cyberzone so much, we decided to make some new color variations just for you. We also have a brand new design for the winter season, where we have our second series, Winter Zero. And this time, it comes with different colorways right off the bat. The new drops are now live on the AVAULT store right away for pre-order, so be sure to check it out. Both new drops have single and 2-player versions as well. Alright, Digi-Egg cards, as still usual, we're running the BT7 Doraemon for our main egg. Just because of your turn once return, when you shove sources underneath, you get to draw 1 card. We still do a lot of that, and this is still the preferable base to be running when it comes to Machinedramon, alongside with our rookie, where we have Doraemon as well, which is also from BT7. And when you do add stuff underneath the source, you get to gain a memory. It does have that on play searching capability, but you don't really want to utilize that whatsoever for this particular deck. You're only really just trying to Digivolve on top of Doraemon, and that's it. Now, speaking of Doraemon and the whole X antibody stuff, did you guys know in BT16, one of my fan favorite Digimon out there, Dorugoramon, is coming in with a whole new line with being part of the Digimon Seekers and SOC. Now, if you guys are fans of that, stay tuned for the deck. Definitely going to be covering it. Be sure to subscribe, turn on the notification bell to stay tuned in. If you guys are interested in deck lists in general and want to see all the other BT15 deck lists I've been working on before everybody else, definitely join the AVAULT Club as well. But anyways, that's it for Doraemon. We got to move on with Hagurumon here. We got 2 copies just because of his on play, trashing 1 card from your hand. That's Machine, Cyborg. Get to draw 2. Really, really good for the deck overall. Might want to bump this up to 3 or 4 even, just because it sets you off. Really, really good early game card to be seeing. But for now, I'm also running 2 copies of Chikurimon just because we do see a lot of reduction play cost stuff going around in the current meta as well, you know, to stop that. So definitely, I also want to include this. So totally up to you guys. If you're facing Apocalypse a lot, this is definitely the card to include in, but right after the ban list and restriction, maybe it makes more sense just to have more Hagurumons as well for consistency's sake. Totally up to you guys. Level 4s, running 4 copies of Tankmon. Now, before we did used to play Numemon, which I talked a lot about, but now we're converting into Tankmon specifically for various reasons. Not only it just digivolves for 1, which does exactly the same, but it's mainly because of Cyborg trait, which has a lot of synergy with all our other cards coming through now. And it makes more sense to be playing Tankmon for that particular reason, even though it might cost 6 to hard play. But yeah, I definitely always Digivolve this in as my main level 4 when I see it into my stack. Another card there is also Raremon. Raremon is really good for this deck just because it's also treated as having Cyborg in its trait. Now, it has an on-play and when Digivolving effect. By trashing 1 card from your hand, you get to draw 2, which is really helpful for Machinedramon because you want to get draw power, you want to find pieces quickly, and it has that inheritable of when attacking. By trashing 1 card from your hand, you get to delete one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon, which helps out because you can add more level 5 stuff into your trash and recycle them for usage later on as well, which has great synergy in this deck overall. So yeah, definitely at least 2 copies of Raremon. Moving into level 5s, which is the biggest thing when it comes to Machinedramon deck, but the new level 5 I definitely want to talk about first is the 2 copies of Megadramon. I would say at least run 2 copies. I know some players like to run 3 or even 4 because just how good it really is. It digivolves for 3 on top of any level 4 SOC trait cost. Otherwise, you digivolve for on top of black level 4 for 3 costs, so effectively the same thing for this particular deck. On play or when digivolving, you reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You get to place 1 Machine or Cyborg or SOC trait card as the bottom Digivolution card of this particular Digimon, and then you get to add the other card, which meets that same requirement, and then you trash the rest. Perfect setup for the deck because it's just giving you a lot of searching value, a lot of setup value, even sometimes when you have to hard play it for 7 costs, which is totally fine. It also has that when attacking, if there's a SOC Tamer underneath it as a source, you get to delete one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers that are 3 costs or less, which is essentially what the other Megadramon does as well, which is fantastic. Now with this new inheritable, when attacking once per turn, you simply just de-digivolve 1 on your opponent's Digimon, which is also fantastic and makes it very easy for the deck to remove multiple things, swing over things, And yeah, very, very fantastic control. And I've been really, really liking this new Machinedramon in the deck as the addition. Moving into our other sort of level 5 stuff, let's go by mainly the inheritables. For our blockers, we have the Andromon and the Metal Greymon from EX4. Mainly, we're just having them for the inheritable. Andromon also has that when digivolving, helping you search a little bit. And then you have Metal Greymon, but your when digivolving effect doesn't really apply in this deck either anyways. And then we also have the reboot. We have one Andromon reboot right here. If you guys want to play more reboot stuff, I definitely have more to suggest you guys in the tech options and the other stuff, because there's a lot of new pieces now that you can be juggling based on your personal preference. Moving into the offensive side of things, we have security +1 inheritables, Volcanomon, Metal Greymon, Machinedramon right here. All these guys are basically your offensive strategy to make more attack swings or check more security as you're attacking. That's really the whole main goal of having them too. And then for similar utility, I love Metal Tyrannomon just because you get to trash the opponent's security. If anything, this would be my other one to run like 2-ofs. But yeah, right now we have so many cyborgs and level 5s to work with for this particular deck. We're trying to keep it diversified so we can always make sure that we have different code names when we're, comboing together. DP buff guys, Metal Greymon here for extra 3k, Machinedramon here for extra 2k. You do want to make sure that your Chaosdramon and your top end is as strong as possible, just because then it can become the indestructible machine from that, at least during your own turn too. Utility stuff to pop things, Metal Mamemon to pop 5 costs or lower Digimon, which synergizes greatly with the new Machinedramon, so you can de-digivolve, pop 5 costs. Really good against ace cards too, because most ace cards are particularly 4 costs. With their level 5, popping that, you're gaining a lot of value too. Machinedramon deleting 3-cost Tamers, which we still see a lot these days people are playing, which are really efficient again. So yeah, these two great cards. We have Piercing for Metal Greymon, and for the other Metal Greymon, we also have the Attack Unsuspended. I will still also argue that if you guys want to play multiple copies of the BT8 that's also something that you might want to opt in for, to play 2 copies, just because swinging over unsuspended stuff basically removes almost anything on the board, which is always really, really good. That's it for level 5 stuff and the cyborg pieces and all that. Let's talk about level 6s. I'm going still 2 copies of the BT11 Machinedramon just because I do like to climb into my stack, and being able to climb into my stack and digivolve and use its effect to search for more pieces, put one from my hand or add it underneath it instead, or also look for Analog Man, which is pretty crucial. And at the same time, if this ever gets deleted by the stack, you get to play another Machinedramon from your hand for free. And the Machinedramon you guys want to be playing is still the good old EX1 Classic Collection one. Keep in mind guys, there is still the errata where you specifically place up to 5 red or black level 5 cyborg cards from your trash or hand in order to sort of complete the parts. And then afterwards you gain a memory for each. All turns its DP cannot be reduced, which is fantastic against yellow decks. If you guys notice, this was completely stomping against like the yellow vaccine deck as well. Definitely watch the gameplay video. There's also the all turns protection. If it would be deleted, trash 2 level 5 sources to keep it and prevent it from being deleted too. Then of course, Chaosdramon itself is still really important, so I'm still playing at least 3 copies. Some of you guys might play 4 because that's also a main go-to. It has that on-play when digivolving, letting you place up to 3 sources with level 5 different codes from your hand or trash. Underneath it, de-digivolve 1 on your opponent's Digimon for each sources you placed underneath it. And it has that all turns protection, which is kind of a bit of a one-up of the Machinedramon because it prevents it from being deleted, returned to the hand, or even bottom decked by trashing 2 level 5 pieces to prevent it as well. And then of course, 2 copies of the big boss itself, Chaosdramon X. Chaosdramon X gains everything underneath it, including Machinedramon and Chaosdramon, so you can utilize their when digivolving effects all over again, which is really good. Add more sources, start your main phase, it continues to add sources and build stronger and stronger and stronger. You mainly do want to digivolve it for 2 on top of Chaosdramon or Machinedramon, and then it has that all turns, it gains the effects like I mentioned earlier. And then the last part is that all turns once returned, when this Digimon will be deleted, you just trash the top card of your opponent's security stack, and then you can proceed to use your protections from Machinedramon and Chaosdramon to prevent it from leaving play. And again, it just continues to ramp up and becomes unstoppable. That's it for level 6s and Digimon in total. Let's talk about Tamers. 2 copies of the newest Marvin Jackson. I know some of you guys might be wanting to play like 2 to 4 copies, 3 or 4 copies as well to, bump up the consistency with this. Itself essentially has like a mini analog man effect, because at the start of your main, you get to trash 1 card with Machine, Cyborg, or SOC trait from your hand to gain 1 memory, and there's no level restriction on when it comes to this one. You want to be able to mind link with a Digimon that has Machine, Cyborg, or SOC so that you can give it jamming and blocker, which is why it's also arguable if you play more Marvin Jacksons that you don't need to play more blocker sources when it comes to your level 5s, whereas you might want to play more reboot sources to synergize with this overall. But yeah, being able to have jamming and blocker can kind of help you out where you might not even need DP as much anymore if you're not trying to swing over stuff. If you want to go for the aggressive to swing at security, then jamming is also perfect. But yeah, for now, I'm playing 2 copies and it's worked out very nicely. Just because you don't really need to see it as much, just because you also want to make room for analog man still, because of the redirection with its secondary effect, which is really good, and the start of main phase just by being able to trash a level 5 specific cyborg to help you gain a memory and draw cards and cycle pieces, which is still really important. And like I mentioned, redirecting is almost just as good as blocking as well for your defensive stance too. That's it for Tamers. Let's talk about options here. 3 copies of Supreme Connection, which is an incredibly good card for this particular deck. You guys can also play somewhere between 2 to 3 or 4 copies of this. I wouldn't say any less than 2. Just for 3 costs, it is your main Machinedramon searcher now. It reviews the top 5 cards of your deck. You add 1 machine or cyborg trait to your hand, you trash other card, and then you return the rest to the top so you can plan ahead for what you want to digivolve into or draw into your following turns. Now, its secondary effect is really good because it helps, solve a lot of issues for the deck. Delay, main, you play 1 level 5 or higher Digimon card with Machine or Cyborg and traits from your hand, and you get to reduce the cost by 3. You get to hard play your level 5s if you want to and get some really good on-play effects, effectively, paying only 4 or 5 memory. Otherwise, you get to play your Machinedramon, especially the EX11, for 9 costs instead of the 12 costs. And then you get to gain a bunch of memory back, effectively potentially playing it just for 4 costs thanks to this delay effect. Security effect essentially does the same thing with its main effect, helping you search for more, and you get to place it in the battle area, so you still get to use this delay afterwards. Is, again, a really, really good card that you guys should definitely try out and include when it comes to this new part. Then we have 2 copies of Black Memory Boost. I've been debating sometimes on adding a little bit more just because you want to search more. You guys can play defensive training as well, which I don't include. Totally up to you guys when it comes to personal preference, but I prefer Black Memory Boost specifically in this build just because you do play abundance of other red stuff, and sometimes you might whiff on your search because of the red stuff, which is why you want to be able to dig deeper to increase your chances of hitting a black Digimon card that you can grab to go for Black Memory Boost instead. And then of course there is still the 2 copies of Attack of Heavy Mobile Digimon. It is your finisher because it gives your machines Blitz and Rush on play. You can attack right away and finish games out of nowhere, and your opponents usually don't see it coming, which is a really good card. Security Bomb is also fantastic because it lets you trash 1 card with Cyborg or Machinist traits, deleting your opponent's Digimon with play costs equal to or less as well to disrupt them. Yeah, definitely a nice bomb as well. And then last but not least, 1 Super Eradication Attack, which I still really like this combo and synergy, just more of a flex spot when it comes to playing it alongside Chaosdramon X. You delete your opponent's Digimon, and then you try to attempt to delete your own Chaosdramon, but you protect it, and then because it would have been deleted, you can also trash your opponent's security all at the same time. And the security effect basically does like the same thing as Attack on a Heavy Mobile Digimon as well, to pop your opponent's stuff, to surprise them there. Alright, other cards and tech choices that I've considered when I was building this deck as well. The first one is actually the BT15 Hagurumon, which I think is also really good, and I'm trying to find space to put it in as well. Maybe I'll just take out the Chigurumons when the time comes. But it has that on play, searching the top 3, adding yourself 1 Machine or Cyborg and 1 Black Tamer among them, and then you get to return the rest of the bottom of the deck. Really good, and it has that inheritable reboot, which I was talking about earlier. Having a little bit more reboot can be really, really beneficial for the deck. And yeah, I probably would actually add this in moving forward too. Next, we have the ALittleSpoon from BT15, which is supposed to help you play your Marvin Jackson out more effectively for free, and they get to de-digivolve 1, but the only downside is that it's a mythical beast, it's SOC, and its traits. It may not have as much great synergy when it comes to like having being Cyborg or Machine with alongside your whole Machinedramon deck, but I have seen people, run a couple of these as well. And also because, like I mentioned earlier, reboot with his inheritable as a lower level, pretty good. Speaking of reboot, got the Chaosdramon here from BT15. It's a blocker itself. When digivolving or on play, you get to trash 1 card with Machine, and you get to sort of like keep it protected for 1 whole turn. Your turn, your opponent has no Digimon, this Digimon can't attack. So yeah, it's just an okay card, but you definitely can also include it just for that sake, just to have like a level 4 blocker, lower stuff to get into. Otherwise, I personally still prefer the X1 Guardiamon a little bit more if you're going to be playing Guardiamon in general, just because of its inheritable, helps you cycle a bit more faster, draw cards, trash cards as well, and itself is also still a blocker, even though it can't attack, not an issue at all. Talked about Numemon earlier. The only pro when it comes to Numemon compared to Tankmon is really just its lower play cost. Sometimes you might be breaking this deck and sometimes it might be tough to find your pieces, but Numemon's a great card to slap down for 3 costs in the early stages, and then you can immediately Digivolve into the 5 as well if it's still your turn. So then you can cycle through and build your stack outside that way, instead of having really to rely on seeing a level 3 in your hand when you go into like your on top of your Doraemon with Doraemon, which is your only choices. Next, we also have the Gigadramons. This one for reboot and jamming as well. But yeah, like I mentioned, there's probably better reboot choices generally. The Gigadramon is opponent's turn extra 2k. Can come in handy sometimes as well, especially when you're redirecting attacks and playing defensively. So up to you guys when it comes to that too. This other brand new Gigadramon, although it's more intended for Dark Masters and Apocalymon, it still has an on-play letting you search top 4 to add 2 level 6 or higher Digimon cards and return the rest of the bottom of the deck, so you can potentially still add your Machinedramons, your Chaosdramons, and your Chaos-Exes via this effect. And then end of turn, you can delete it by deleting, then you can play Dark Masters, but you don't really utilize it if you do play this card in the deck. Otherwise, inheritable reboot as well. And yeah, if you guys are trying to diversify your code names or codes, that's the one to go to. And then the Tyrannomon as well. This one's also pretty good just to give that reboot as well. And then it lets you, when Digivolving, kind of search your top 3 cards too to help you out. Then we got Taikamiya, the Memory Tamer, which can be very beneficial for this deck because when you're redirecting and blocking attacks, which is what Machinedramon does a lot, you get to suspend this guy to draw a card, gain extra 2000 DP, which is also just as good as the other Gigadramon Black that you guys saw earlier, which I talked about from BT6 too. So yeah, Memory Tamer also really fantastic to synchronize too. Then there's Ultimate Slicer, another like smaller form of removal just for 5 costs. Trash 1 Digimon card machine or cyborg. Associating your trait, you delete one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers with the lowest play cost, and then with its security effect, does the same thing. Kind of disruptive, so kind of nice little removal there. But I kind of like Super Eradication a little bit more. Alright, combos and how to play this brand new Machinedramon deck. Of course, when it comes to your opening hand, you want to see pieces that can help you sort of get your engine going. Really, really important, of course, you want to see your Doraemon so you can Digivolve into it. Of course, you want to be able to climb through your stack, which is why you want to see your Tankmon. And these are some ideal pieces because it helps you draw and cycle as much as possible. But you don't always have the luxury to see all these perfect hands because there's other cards like Hagurumon, trash and draw. Same thing with Raremon, sometimes you just might have to hard play it to trash and draw. 4 costs is not a lot to pay off. When it comes to this deck, you are going to be paying a little bit more memory, usually compared to all the other decks, but it's totally fine. It will pay off as it comes to. You want to be seeing your Black Memory Boost, as well as Supreme Connection as well when it comes to it. And of course your Analog Man, especially when you have a lot of multiple level 5s in your hand, you want to be able to utilize the starter main phase effects as much as possible so you can draw, trash, gain memory all at the same time, and then eventually later in the game when you get into your big stack, you get to redirect attacks. Supreme Connection is really good alongside with Megadramon. Sometimes you ideally might want to hard play your Machinedramon from EX1 alongside with it, which is a combo I'll show you guys in a bit, but in the early stages, sometimes you establish this, playing this Megadramon is just as good because it has that on-play effect to help you search and cycle. Searching and cycle and finding as many solutions as you can to build your pieces is really important. And memory is a lesser thing to sort of like be very aware of. But yeah, these are all the different lines of plays that you want to be accessing and noticing when you're playing Machinedramon. So of course, Digivolve your stack, that's one way. Go into Tankmon, and then ideally go into your Megadramon or any level 5s that you have essentially that you can Digivolve into, as long as it can go on top of a black to cycle for your card. And then eventually you would be able to see this Machinedramon, Digivolve it, cycle again, put more stuff underneath, gain memory of Doraemon, draw a card with Doraemon as well, and then climb up that way. So then you can eventually then also go into Chaosdramon here if you need to. But I do like to stay this Machinedramon because it does give you that on deletion. If you have Analog Man, you can cheek out a Machinedramon during your opponent's turn, shove other 5 pieces underneath it, and then gain 5 memory, passing your opponent's turn back to your turn, which is really, really neat. Otherwise, if you don't see this Machinedramon, you just sometimes have to go straight into this Chaosdramon and just cycle pieces. You really need to be juggling between your level 5s, seeing how many you have when it comes to accessing them, and then pick and choose to build your ultimate machine, as always, depending on what you need at the time. You know, the ideal one is, you know, swing over stuff, trash security, de-digivolve as well, and gain security attack +1. Sometimes you just go directly and hit to face the opponent, do multiple checks, and you have analog man here to sort of give you that defensive mechanism when your opponent attacks, and you still have protection as well. Eventually, when it comes to big stack, go into Chaosdramon X, so then you can do Chaosdramon's effect all over again if you have stuff in your trash, which is why if you trash them for analog man earlier, really great. If you have them eventually when you cycle through and draw more cards, put stuff underneath, put another 3, de-digivolve 3 on one of your opponent's Digimon all over again, and you can see a ginormous stack just continues to build non-stop over and over again. That's the traditional way. You always want to be playing via that way, which works out fine. And that's why sometimes if you don't have the luxury to go into your stack like this, you always want to prioritize drawing and cycling. So sometimes you just hard play as a Machinedramon and you do exactly the same thing. Hard play your Chaosdramon. Not hard play, but like Digivolve on top of it. So then you can do the same thing and then tuck 3 sources underneath and build your stack that way as well. And your priority is to try to get into Machinedramon as soon as possible. Sometimes you just don't have a choice. Like I said, you just have to hard play this, which is a little bit unfortunate, but then you just at least establish control on the board as soon as possible. The sooner you have one of these guys up, the better it is and the better situation it is for you. And of course, later in the stages, when you play the Machinedramon, you do the same thing. If you have Supreme Connection, you can always reduce the play cost. Very, very versatile. You can reduce the play cost of your Machinedramon and then Digivolve like that. Or you can even reduce the play cost of your Tankmon to make it 3 cost instead, which is almost like a new Maimon. Digivolve here, and then even just Digivolve here to follow up if you have that kind of memory afterwards too. So that's how you want to be building your stack. That's why another reason why Raremon is really good, because when you hard play it, it does like kind of the same thing. A level 4, Digivolve to level 5, Digivolve to level 6 afterwards, and so on. Now the new really cool combo is Supreme Connection alongside with Attack of Heavy Mobile Digimon. Attack of Heavy Mobile Digimon doesn't require you to instantly play your machine. It just gives everything that you have a machine that's level 6 or higher immediately rush and blitz afterwards. So you can actually play this first, toss away something, and then use Supreme Connection afterwards to then play, which ideally would be your Machinedramon from EX1. Put 5 pieces underneath, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with different codes, which is why we're trying to diversify as much as possible. And that's how you want to do the game finisher too, right? Before you need like 2 memory at least in order to do the full combo and then swing, gain the 5 back, and then attack. But with Supreme Connection, you reduce the cost by 3, meaning that you can be at 0 and you're playing Machinedramon for 9, gaining 5 back, putting them to 4, which is pretty memory efficient. But usually when you go for this combo with Attack on Heavy Mobile anyways, you just try to go for a game. But thanks to Supreme Connection now, you can do this a little bit earlier and not try to go for a game, but you can go for a mid-game play because of this and build it up like that. And then if you want to, then you can continue to build like before, Chaosdramon, and then Chaos X as you go. So very simple. You're trying to build your stack. Once you get into the stack, big boss Digimon, always protected, really, really strong, and you control the board, take out your opponent's security bit by bit, and there's just absolutely nothing they can do to get rid of this ginormous, indestructible ultimate machine that you've created. Don't believe me on how strong Machinedramon really is right now? Well, watch this gameplay video as we destroy all our opponents with it as well. If you guys enjoyed the deck profile with the playmat that we used today, definitely check out the AVAULT store to grab your very own Cyber Zone playmat black, as we have a 1-player and 2-player version available there as well. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video. It is AVAULT signing out.